Picture yourself on a small lobster boat off the coast of Maine. The salty air stinging your face as the chilly Gulf of Maine stretches out around you. I'm talking about lobster fishing. A way of life for folks here who've been hauling in these clawed critters for generations. If you've ever cracked open a lobster roll at a seaside shack, it probably came from Maine, the heart of America's lobster industry, supplying over 100 million pounds a year to tables across the country and beyond. Let's dive into what it's really like to fish for lobsters in Maine, the hard work, the history, and the challenges these fishers face every day. Lobster fishing in Maine goes back to the 1800s, when locals started catching lobsters by hand or with simple traps. Now, it's a big deal. Maine's fishery brings in over $500 million a year, supporting coastal towns like Rockland and Boothbay. The season runs year-round, but summer and fall are the busiest, when lobsters move closer to shore. Fishers like my friend Tom Ellis, who's been at it for 30 years, use wooden traps, about a meter wide. It's a waiting game. They sort the catch, keeping only lobsters that meet the size limit. 2 small egg-bearing females go back to keep the population healthy. This job means everything to Maine's coastal communities. It's not just about the money, it's about family traditions. I've sat with Tom's crew, sipping coffee on the dock, listening to them talk about how their dads and granddads fish the same waters. They are proud to feed people, from local diners to fancy restaurants in New York. But it's not easy. The work is tough. Imagine standing on a rocking boat in freezing weather, hands raw from hauling traps, knowing a storm could roll in any minute. Tom's seen friends lose boats to rough seas, and the physical toll is real. Sore backs and long days are part of the deal. Then there's the bigger worry. The ocean is warming. Lobsters are moving north to cooler waters, and some years, the catch drops, making it harder to pay the bills. Plus, there's bycatch, crabs, small fish, even seaweed get caught in the traps, and while they toss them back, it's a reminder of the impact on the ocean. The industry tries to stay sustainable. There are strict rules, like trap limits and size restrictions, to protect lobster stocks. But enforcement can be spotty, and not everyone follows the rules. Scientists say if things don't change, lobster numbers could drop in the next few decades, especially with climate change stressing the Gulf of Maine. I've heard older fishers talk about the old days, when lobsters were so plentiful you could fill a boat with just a few traps. Now, they're setting more traps, sailing farther, and working harder just to keep up. After a long trip, Tom's boat might bring in 800 pounds of lobster, which goes straight to market. Some end up as fresh dinners, others get processed into frozen tails or lobster bisque. But the ocean isn't a bottomless well. The balance between fishing enough to live and fishing too much to sustain is tricky. Will lobsters still be a lifeline for Maine fishers in the future, or will they become harder to find? The work goes on, but the question of what's next lingers like the fog over the coast. Them says, pointing to a buoy in the distance. Tom checks his GPS, where a marker shows a trap line, and gives a nod to start hauling. They are using more traps these days, which some worry might put too much pressure on the lobster population. But the need to make a living is real, and regulations haven't caught up yet. When the traps come up, they find lobsters but also some small fish and bits of seaweed, an unintended effect of the harvest. The crew in their small galley. A young crew member named Sam pulls up his phone and reads about new efforts to help Maine's lobster fishery adapt to a changing ocean. Let's talk about something you might not think about every day: sheep farming in New Zealand, and the growing push to make it more sustainable. I recently heard about environmental campaigns in Wellington calling for tougher rules on methane emissions from livestock to fight climate change. For farmers like my friend Anna, who's been raising sheep for 20 years, this is a big deal. She knows that if these rules get too strict, thousands of farmers like her could struggle to keep going. But she also knows that if things don't change, the land and climate might suffer down the line. So, what's it really like to farm sheep in New Zealand? And why is it at the heart of this debate? Sheep farming has been a cornerstone of New Zealand's economy since the 1800s, when British settlers brought over the first flocks. Today, the country has about 25 million sheep, 5 for every person, and it's the world's top exporter of lamb, shipping out over $3 billion worth each year. The process starts with farmers like Anna managing their flocks on vast, hilly pastures, where sheep graze on grass year-round. Shearing happens once or twice a year, often in spring, using electric clippers to harvest wool, while lambs are raised for meat, sent to market after about 6 months. Anna's family has been on their South Island farm for generations, and she takes pride in feeding people worldwide, from local markets to restaurants in Europe. But the work is grueling: long hours in all weather, worrying about feed costs, and keeping the sheep healthy through harsh winters. The environmental spotlight on sheep farming comes from methane, a greenhouse gas sheep produce when they digest grass. It's a big concern. Livestock accounts for about 40% of New Zealand's emissions, and scientists say if this continues, it'll make climate goals harder to meet. The government has set targets Anna feels guilty about when she sees fish disappear from streams her kids used to play in. The industry is trying to adapt. There are programs to help farmers plant trees to is feeling squeezed by the changes. But the push for sustainability is paying off. Studies show organic farming cuts greenhouse gas emissions by 20% compared to conventional methods, and healthier soils are bringing back wildlife like birds and bees, which Lisa's dad hadn't seen on the farm in years. The Wisconsin Department of Agriculture has even set new standards, banning certain pesticides in 30% of key farmland areas. On Lisa's farm, the mood is hopeful. They've started working with researchers, testing soil health,